Hello, America. I want to talk to you tonight about what this election really is all about and which side are you on. I invite you to share this with friends that maybe don't think the same way that you do. And I'm not talking about the people who are, for Donald Trump, even if he stabs somebody in the streets, or are so anti-Donald Trump that they would stab him in the streets. I'm talking about the people who are regular people that are not necessarily paying attention all the time. You need to bring them some news of where we're headed as a nation. This election, and I hate this phrase, that's the most important election of our lives. This one is. This one is. This one, in just a few days, will decide whether America, as we have always known it, survives, or if we change into something now that no one's really defining. But massive transformation is on the horizon. And it's not going to be one where we all come together and sing Kumbaya. Let me ask, do you think the communist witch trials in the 1950s were right? Where do you think you would have stood back then? What would you have been for that? The House hearings on un-American activities? I can't imagine supporting, just because you believe something differently, as long as you are not plotting to overthrow, you're not planning action. I can't imagine that if you believe something differently than I do, that I would call you in front of a hearing. We are possibly not too far from that ugly chapter in American history now happening on the left. Imagine being called before a committee of HUAC, the House Unwoke Activities Committee. Have you ever been, or are you now, a member of the Unwoke? Have you ever, or are you now still supporting Donald Trump? Have you ever, or are you now a conservative? That sounds crazy. But I think there's a lot of people in America that are planning on that. It's already spreading to other countries as well. They're calling for it now in England. It's a Western thing. It's to destroy the Western world. Last week, Robert Reich, the former Secretary of Labor during the Clinton administration, now a professor at Berkeley, tweeted this: "When this nightmare is over, we need a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It would erase Trump's lies, comfort those who have been harmed by his hatefulness, and name every official, politician, executive, and media mogul whose greed and cowardice enabled this catastrophe." That would be you and me. Since the 1970s, there have been truth commissions. They've been around the world, the kind that Robert Reich wants now in America. And he is not alone. Just Google search Truth and Reconciliation in America, in Great Britain. This is a well thought out idea on those on the uber left. Now, the truth commissions that have been set up in the past have been set up in Africa and Latin America. It usually happens in countries after a bloody, bloody civil war where monstrosities have taken place, where there's been a regime change, and it's usually a dictator that is overthrown, and somebody has to ask for all of the, what about all the people you killed and tortured in prisons? That's when they set up these commissions and address atrocities that happened under dictators. Or in the commissions in the East Germany, Czechoslovakia, the atrocities under communism. In the most famous example, it would be South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Committee, and it addressed the decades of apartheid that ravaged the nation. Again, horrible atrocities. These commissions usually conclude with an official final report, and these commissions and reports have served as a means of governments trying to close the dark chapter on their country's history or provide an emotional catharsis. This is a way to generate interest in moving on. And sometimes it kind of works for people. You know, they did it in Rwanda, but they didn't force anybody to do it. They asked you to come to a tree. It's a tradition in Rwanda. You come to the tree in the main square and you just talk. And if you just admit what you did and help find the bodies of the loved ones of a community that you slaughtered and buried, they won't take any action. You just have to say you're sorry. And it became an amazing moment of love. But that's after civil war where people killed each other, slaughtered and raped children. Now, here's how one professor has described truth commissions in the article in The Conversation just last year. The goal of a truth commission is to hold public hearings to establish the scale and impact of a past injustice, typically involving wide-scale human rights abuses, and make it part of permanent, unassailable public record. Truth commissions are officially recognized victims and perpetrators in an effort to move beyond the painful past. This would be fine if we weren't living in a time where they are literally changing history. Literally changing history. This is not pursuit of truth. It is the pursuit of someone else's truth, but not the truth. Some have been cynically used as tools for governments to legitimize themselves by pretending they've dealt with painful histories when they've only kicked the can down the road. See, this is the problem with a lot of truth commissions. They are inherently political. Even if you trust your government and give them all the benefit of the doubt in the world that their truth commission is actually trying to do the right thing, it is always going to be political, because these truth commissions are never set up by those who have lost power in the government. They're established by those who have won power. Now, if you trust an organization or a government like we used to trust the United States government, in Nuremberg, where the evidence was clear, okay. But if you're trusting the government to go after, let's say, communists in the 1950s, we don't do that here in America. We always end up looking at that as a giant black spot. Your friends have to know they're being used. They're being lied to, and they're being used. And they most likely know it when they watch the press. Look, I'm not saying that everything I tell you is the absolute truth. You know I'm not a journalist. I tell you to do your own homework. Don't take my word for things. You have to look at original documents whenever you can. But the original documents now are here. And they are frightening, as I will tell you here in a minute on what's coming in the next 2 weeks. The executive director of the International Center for Transitional Justice says one of the main points in these truth commissions is that, quote, victims become protagonists. So who are the victims in Robert Reich's America? Well, these are the people that he believes helped Donald Trump, supported Donald Trump, allowed this to happen. That will be members of the right. That will be conservatives. That will be people like me, like Ben Shapiro, who we didn't vote for Donald Trump in the first term, but we actually were fair enough to look at the good of Donald Trump and the bad of Donald Trump. And for years before, we implored our government to stop, please. Let's not get involved in everybody else's business all around the world. Let's not ghost plane people and then righteously claim we don't. Oh no, we never, ever, ever torture. It's wrong. Drop him off in Egypt. They'll do it for us. It's wrong. But we have lost sight of wrong and right, good and evil. In fact, everything's been flipped on its head. If you've been watching me for a long time, you know that I have told you the evils of America probably better than anybody that teaches at Berkeley. I made a promise to my daughter. She said to me one time, she was 16, 17 years old. She was going to go into college for history. And she told me, Dad, you think that everything in America is sunshine and lollipops. You don't know how ugly it is. And I said, I will learn how ugly it is if you promise me you will look for the good things and learn how good it is at the same time. I can peel the skin off of people's faces and tell you exactly what this country has done in times. I can tell you, I can show you the evidence. I have the documents. I am the only owner of one of the 7 guns that was taken after a mass slaughter at Wounded Knee. I own a Native American gun to tell the story. And do you think I tell it from the white man's point of view? Nope. It was murder. It was a slaughter. It was a massacre against innocent women and children in the middle of the night. And the orders came from Washington, D.C. That's the truth, whether you like to hear it or not. If Donald Trump would have done those things they said he did in Russia, do you really think that I wouldn't have turned on him? Do you really think that I wouldn't have exposed that? If you don't, you've never watched my show. Now, people like me, people like you, we have to fold to this new woke culture. We have to toe the line. When Senator Feinstein comes out and she says this Amy Coney Barrett thing, I'm not going to vote for it, but that was one of the best hearings we've had in a long time. Everybody who did watch it said the same thing. You know why? You know why nobody watched that hearing? Because it was boring. Okay? She was talking about the Constitution and asking questions and explaining how it works, and nobody in America wants to hear that. It was boring because it was civilized. It wasn't Survivor Island. And when she said that, which was true, what happened? The left went crazy. And Chuck Schumer, when he was asked a question, this is how he responded. Listen to this.
Some progressive groups have spoken out criticizing Senator Feinstein for her handling of the hearings. I was wondering what you make of this criticism, and do you plan to make any changes to the Judiciary Committee?
Okay, I've had a long and serious talk with Senator Feinstein. That's all I'm going to say about it right now.
All right, so she's been taken out to the woodshed. For what? For not claiming which? Burner at the stake? Do you want to live in an America like that? And make no mistake, this is where we're headed. There have been lots of calls in the U.S. to have its own Truth and Reconciliation Commission, especially around racial injustice. I have no problem with talking about delving into and really having an open conversation of the sins of the past in this country. This past June, Democratic Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California introduced legislation to establish the United States Commission on Truth, Racial Hearing, and Transformation. Ibram X. Kendi, the high priest of anti-racism and the author of Target's current favorite book, Anti-Racist Baby, proposes a constitutional anti-racism amendment. This amendment would establish and permanently fund the Department of Anti-Racism. Have you read George Orwell? It will be comprised of formally trained experts on racism and no political appointees. The DOA would be responsible for pre-clearing all local, state, and federal public policies to ensure they won't yield racial inequity, or monitor these policies to investigate private racist policies when racial inequality surfaces, and monitor all public officials for expressions of racist idea. The DOA, boy, wouldn't you? Isn't that an appropriate acronym for that? Would be empowered with disciplinary tools to wield over and against policymakers and public officials who do not voluntarily change their racist policy and ideas, end quote. Are you kidding me? So we have this non-political appointee. I don't even know who appoints them. Oh, they're just all experts. So there's a think tank that actually has power to punish people for thinking differently. No, thank you. And if you think that's far-fetched, you have not been paying attention to the growing radicals on the left. The Democratic Party is not what it used to be. It's not even what it was in 2008. In a Joe Biden Kamala Harris administration, and believe me, Joe Biden is not going to last long. A Department of Antiracism is entirely within the realm of possibility. And of course, a DOA would never stop at policing government. We're a few days away now from actually losing the Bill of Rights. You know, people don't understand. If you pack the court, if you have a court just start to redefine the words in the Bill of Rights, they mean nothing. If you have a right to keep and bear arms, as long as you have the well-regulated militia, and this is the easy one, we could debate this one all day long, and we could have honest people on both sides of this have reasonable arguments. But how about the right to property? Well, you don't have a right to property. Of course you don't have a right to property. Well, I have it right there, the Fourth Amendment. I have a right to my property. No, you don't, because this is stolen land. And because it was stolen from the indigenous people, you can't own stolen land. If you just start redefining a few words, and that's what we're in the business of, in real time, they're changing meanings in the dictionary. You just change a few things and you have lost America and the Western world. Given the events of 2020, should Democrats gain the White House, the Senate, the House, how many commissions are in our future? They will suddenly have plenty of political capital to drag the nation through years of truth hearings. The left's form of justice is never satisfied. You think it will stop at a TNR commission on race? MSNBC's Chris Hayes tweeted this month about the need for a commission to deal with Americans who are skeptical about wearing masks. The most human and reasonable way to deal with all of these people, if we survive this, is some kind of truth and reconciliation commission. Like we're intentionally killing people if we disagree with you on masks. Are you kidding me? How about a truth and reconciliation commission on religion? I mean, look at all those reckless churches spreading COVID this year. Look at how many people say that the Bible says that homosexuality is a sin. Even if they say, like me, a libertarian, but whatever you choose to do is up to you and your loved ones. You want to marry somebody, marry somebody. Don't tell me how to live my life, and I won't tell you how to live your life. That's not good enough. You see, in this new world, you will be forced to agree. The left is highly selective when it comes to the truth. For instance, all of the stuff that we now know was wrong and has been disproven through a process. All of the things that they said about Donald Trump for the last 3.5 years with Russia, we now know are not true. Not true. Should it ever have been printed? Yes, you had a right to know, and we have a process. Take care of it. But they never took care of the exposing the truth about it. In fact, they're still kicking dirt over it. And now, when there is actual evidence in writing and people coming forward saying, I was in the room with Joe Biden, I heard him, it was my job to get this deal done. I didn't deal with Hunter, I dealt with Joe. And yes, this document that I had and I helped negotiate says $10 million for the big guy to be held by Hunter. The big guy is Joe Biden. They won't even report on that. Now, maybe you can blow holes in it, but you have to investigate it. They won't even address it. So what's going to happen in those Truth and Reconciliation Commissions when you decide that, I don't believe this. I don't believe this. I have a right to say, I have a right to question my government. No, you won't. This is the most frustrating thing in America today. The left insists there is no such thing as absolute truth while simultaneously insisting that there are certain approved truths that are undeniable. So you can't question science, even though science is wrong from the beginning. It was science from the beginning. They're wrong, wrong, wrong. They're only right until they're wrong. And when they declare they're wrong, they're right again because they have a new understanding. Questioning, intelligent questioning, and a search for verifiable facts. That's what built logic. That's what took us out of the Dark Ages. But you can't question racism as the explanation for all of existence because, just because. I can't question third-party fact checkers because the powers that be, they're fact checkers. And yes, mainly big tech right now are the powers that be, and they've decided that they are the truth referees. And they know they're the truth referees because they've hired a bunch of people who think like them to check the truth. Oh. Okay. You see, they forgot to tell you who actually fund the third-party fact checkers. It's like if McDonald's told you to trust third-party health inspectors that they were paying for. The left thinks it has a monopoly on truth. They're enlightened. We're just dummies. In fact, we're in the way. This is the way autocrats, dictators, and bloodthirsty governments begin. They don't show up in the black uniforms. It's not like the movies. They show up and say, we're just trying to help. And it's a psychotic arrogance. If you don't buy what they're selling, even if you're just skeptical of it, you don't have the facts, you're wrong, and you must deny the facts. Or there's something wrong with you. You may have been infected already. So as some of the white papers detailing how these Truth and Reconciliation Commissions need to be run, we have to treat everyone like they've been exposed to a toxin and then monitor them to be able to weed out who is really, truly sick. The left never seems to learn from its own preaching. Communism, it's all fine. Fascism, unless it's in Italy, it's horrible, right? But the fascists were socialists. The fascists were big government people. The conservative, the real conservative, not the mealy-mouth progressive Republicans, the real conservatives say, don't ever, ever give authorities the power to be able to frighten you unless you're hurting other people. Oh, gee, that's it. They're hurting other people. That's the kind of logic they used with the House Un-American Activities Committee. rooting out communists. They're hurting us. Words don't hurt. Thoughts are a powerful thing. But thoughts will never, ever, ever be squashed because someone takes their boot and stands on you. That thought becomes more powerful in the end. But the kind of commission that Robert Reich is describing, many on the left want, it is not enough for Trump to be voted out of office. Americans who put him there must be punished. They don't want reconciliation. This is retribution. Because the left doesn't really simply loathe Donald Trump. The left loathes you. And you know that to be true because you've seen it in those so-called progressive Republicans that promise you one thing and then they go in and do whatever they want, whatever they're told, because they just don't think you're smart enough to get it. I do.